You're incredibly brave 6 hours after somebody disrespects you. By midnight, you've got the whole thing sorted. You know exactly what you should have said, when you should have said it, even the expression you should have had on your face while saying it. You replay the conversation, and this time you don't laugh awkwardly or pretend it didn't bother you. This time you actually stand up for yourself. There's just one problem. The other person isn't there anymore. When they were standing in front of you, you went quiet. Maybe you smiled. Maybe you said, "Don't worry about it." Then you went home and spent the evening furious with yourself, which raises an unpleasant question. Why is being angry with yourself for 3 days easier than making somebody else uncomfortable for 30 seconds? Think about the last time this happened. Someone spoke down to you, made you look stupid, took a joke too far, or said something about your partner or family that they had absolutely no right to say, and you knew it was wrong while it was happening. That's important. This wasn't one of those situations where you only realized later that something bothered you. Part of you was already saying, "Say something." But almost immediately, another conversation began inside your head. Maybe they didn't mean it like that. It's probably not worth an argument. I'll deal with it later. I don't want to make a scene. Before long, you may even find yourself helping the person who caused the problem feel comfortable again. Your expression softens. Your voice becomes friendlier. You give them a way out. Sometimes you'll even laugh at the insult aimed at you. Think about how strange that is. Someone disrespects you, and somehow you've ended up helping them through the awkwardness of having disrespected you. Then they go home, and there's a decent chance they barely think about it again, but you take the conversation with you. It follows you into the car, the shower, bed, sometimes into the following morning. They got 30 seconds of saying whatever they wanted. You got an 8-hour internal investigation, and somehow this arrangement has been filed under keeping the peace. To be fair, sometimes keeping quiet really is the right decision. If you're dealing with an aggressive stranger, somebody who's drunk, or a situation that could become violent, walking away can be the strongest thing available to you. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about those ordinary moments where you desperately wanted to speak, but couldn't bring yourself to tolerate what might happen if you did. There's a difference between choosing not to confront someone and feeling incapable of confronting them. But it's easy to blur those two things afterward. I'm just a nice person. Maybe. It's also a very convenient explanation. Nice sounds considerably better than frightened. Easygoing is nicer still. And I don't like drama can cover almost anything if you don't examine it too closely. Sometimes what you actually dislike isn't drama at all. It's the possibility that after you finally say what you think, somebody might not like you anymore. Psychologists have studied individual differences in something called rejection sensitivity. This doesn't mean everyone who avoids confrontation has it, and it's certainly not a diagnosis for anyone watching this. The useful part is what the research tells us about social threat. Some people become particularly ready to expect and perceive rejection, including when another person's intentions aren't completely clear and rejection doesn't arrive carrying a weapon. Sometimes it's just someone's face changing, a colder tone or an irritated look. That horrible little pause after you've said something they weren't expecting from you. Imagine a smoke alarm that's become too sensitive. It's still doing the job it was designed for, except it can no longer tell the difference between the kitchen burning down and somebody ruining breakfast. Conflict can start to feel like that. The moment somebody pushes back, the alarm goes off. Then they say, "What's your problem?" And suddenly the fastest way to make everything feel safe again is to retreat. So you soften what you said, explain too much, maybe apologize even though you weren't the one who crossed the line, and almost immediately, the tension drops. That feeling right there, the relief when the confrontation disappears, matters far more than it seems because in the short term, staying quiet works. That's the uncomfortable part. You surrender the boundary and the argument disappears with it. Nobody raises their voice or rejects you. You never have to find out what would have happened if you'd held your ground for another 30 seconds. The alarm stops. Your brain doesn't need to understand dignity, fairness, or what you'll think about yourself tomorrow morning. It has just discovered that backing down removed something unpleasant. That's a very efficient lesson. Tomorrow, of course, you're furious. You promise yourself it won't happen again, and you probably mean it, but notice where you're making this promise. You're lying in bed, alone, safe. There's nobody disagreeing with you or staring at you, nobody forcing you to improvise. It's easy to promise courage in a room where courage isn't currently required. The replay that follows has a name. Psychologists call thoughts about how past events could have gone differently counterfactual thinking. If I'd said this, I should have walked over. Why didn't I just tell him? Researchers Kai Epsteud and Neil Rose reviewed evidence suggesting these imagined alternatives can sometimes help regulate future behavior. In other words, replaying what happened isn't necessarily pointless. Your mind may be trying to produce a better response for next time. The trouble is what happens to that response afterward. Usually nothing. Instead of practicing it, you improve the fantasy. The imaginary version of you becomes magnificent, perfect timing, calm voice, devastating response. He never stumbles over a word, and conveniently the other person never says anything you haven't already written for them. Of course, this version of you is fearless. You control both sides of the conversation. That's courage with the difficulty setting turned off. There's a version of this that's harder to look at. Sometimes, it isn't you being disrespected. It's your wife, husband, child, brother, sister, or friend. Somebody says something clearly out of order, and there's that brief moment where everyone knows the line has been crossed. The person beside you may be waiting to see what happens next, and there you are, calculating the atmosphere. Maybe they didn't mean it. Don't make this worse. We'll deal with it later. Perhaps that diplomatic little smile appears, the one people use when they're trying to make something ugly pass as normal. Anything to prevent the situation becoming uncomfortable. But look at what's actually happening. The person who caused the problem was willing to risk upsetting you. They were willing to upset somebody you love, yet you're worried about making them uncomfortable by challenging it. Somehow, the person behaving badly has ended up receiving your protection. Calling that kindness doesn't make much sense. Calling it maturity doesn't automatically make it mature either. If there was a genuine safety reason not to intervene, that's different. But when there wasn't, I didn't want drama, can sometimes be fear wearing a respectable job title. There's no point turning that observation into another excuse to tear yourself apart. You can't know exactly what the person beside you thought unless they tell you. They may have understood why you froze. They may not have expected you to intervene at all. But you can ask a harder and much more useful question. What did my silence communicate? Because your intentions remain inside your head. Everybody else only gets the behavior. Repeated avoidance teaches people things. A difficult person may discover that pushing you has very little cost. You learn something as well. Discomfort arrives, you retreat. Discomfort disappears. And sometimes, somebody you care about may reasonably wonder why so much effort went into keeping the person causing the problem comfortable. If that thought stings, don't immediately convert it into, "I'm pathetic." That's another dead end. Self-hatred can feel remarkably similar to accountability because both are unpleasant, but they're not the same. You can spend 10 years calling yourself a coward and never practice being assertive once. This is the part that changes the whole picture. The behavior you hate has been doing something useful for you. Not useful in the long term, obviously, but in that exact moment, it protects you from uncertainty, disapproval, and the possibility of rejection. Most importantly, it prevents you from having to see what happens after someone's face changes, and you don't immediately back down. That's why grow a backbone isn't much of a strategy. The lesson you've repeatedly practiced is simpler. Silence brings relief, and each time that happens, the lesson becomes a little easier to repeat. Look at the price you're paying for that relief. You'll spend an evening angry at yourself, rather than risk someone being angry at you for a minute. You'll carry resentment for a week instead of saying one uncomfortable sentence. You'll replay a confrontation 50 times because staying in the original confrontation for another 5 seconds felt impossible. That's a terrible exchange, but if you've been making it for years, eventually you stop noticing you're still paying. So another angry promise isn't going to fix this. What you need is something that still works after your confidence disappears. Researchers Peter Gollwitzer and Pascal Sheeran reviewed 94 independent tests involving what's known as implementation intentions. The basic idea is simple. Decide beforehand what you'll do when a particular situation occurs. Their research wasn't specifically about confronting disrespectful people, so it would be dishonest to pretend otherwise. But the broader evidence for specific if-then planning is useful here. Next time I'll stand up for myself sounds good, but it gives you almost nothing to work with when you're under pressure. Compare it with having the first sentence ready. Someone insults your partner. Don't speak to her like that. Someone talks down to you at work. There's no need to speak to me that way. Someone repeats a joke you've already asked them to stop making. I've already asked you not to do that. You're interrupted again. Hang on, I wasn't finished. Nothing clever or cinematic. That's the point. You're not trying to destroy somebody with the perfect response. You're trying to stay in the uncomfortable moment long enough to establish that there's a line, and you can practice this without waiting for somebody to insult your family. Correct the wrong order instead of eating it anyway. Say, "Sorry, I was next," when somebody pushes ahead. Finish your sentence when someone repeatedly talks over you. Small confrontations are useful because the stakes are low enough for you to discover something your imagination has been hiding from you. Most people's displeasure is survivable. There is evidence that assertiveness itself can be trained. A 2023 randomized controlled trial of a CBT-based assertiveness intervention found increases in healthy assertive expression and reductions in self-reported social anxiety compared with a waitlist condition. That doesn't mean one intervention works for everybody. It does make "this is just who I am" harder to hide behind. And there's another distinction worth making. Assertiveness isn't aggression. An aggressive person treats your dignity as irrelevant. A submissive response treats your own dignity that way. Assertiveness is more awkward than either of them because it allows both people to matter while still saying, "Enough." So next time somebody crosses the line, your body may react exactly as it always has. Your heart speeds up. Your mouth goes dry. The smoke alarm starts screaming, and you get the familiar urge to smooth everything over before it becomes uncomfortable. You don't have to suddenly become fearless. Just notice what the alarm is asking you to do. It's asking you to buy immediate relief again. And this time, instead of searching for the perfect comeback, use the boring sentence you prepared. Say it, even if your voice isn't quite as steady as you'd like. The room may change afterward. Let it. Maybe the other person looks offended, or there's an awkward silence, or maybe somebody thinks you've changed. Perhaps you have. Later that night, your mind may still drag an old conversation back into the room. You'll hear the comment again and remember exactly what you failed to say. But there's no reason to keep winning a confrontation that's already over. Take whatever useful sentence your mind produced and save it for somewhere it can actually matter, because being brave at midnight was never difficult. The difficult part was accepting that sometimes another person has to be uncomfortable so you don't spend the rest of the night wishing you'd been someone else. Let the room be uncomfortable.